Hey there everyone, it's Nick over at Arizona Hot Tub Company, and today we're going to talk about how to make sure you got ozone bubbles in your hot tub if you have ozone but no bubbles. So let's jump into it. All right, so today we're looking at a hot spring Grandy that has a circulation pump, so you can kind of see some ripples coming on the top of the water. I know with this hot tub we typically had ozone bubbles, so there are a couple things that we can do to make sure that we get good ozone bubbles. But before we jump into this, we're going to need a handful of tools because there's a number of things that can cause that to happen. I got a pair of wire nips, some channel locks. I do have a zip tie. It depends on how your ozone is attached, and then a paper clip. And then you're going to need whatever you need to get into the control or into the equipment compartment. So on this particular one, this one's an all plastic hot tub, so it just has the tabs to slide open. So I'm going to open this up and we'll cut back soon. All right, so I got the equipment door off and I'm looking at the ozonator here. So this particular one is a KZO high output ozone, and realistically this is unlikely to be the case because it's not one of the most popular ozones out there. But it does have a air inlet filter out on this guy. So if you have no ozone bubbles and you happen to have this, what's really nice is you can actually grab this filter here and it says increase flow, turn this way. So I can actually increase the flow by turning this, and that's going to actually open how much air is going in. And so if I do that, you can actually see the bubbles actually rush up. So this is unlikely to be the case for most hot tubs out there. Most hot tubs use a JED or a Dell ozone just because they're kind of inexpensive to add on. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to go a step further and kind of show you what needs to be done in the event you still have no ozone but you don't have a filter to adjust. That's just in case you have one of these. Okay, so for demonstration purposes, I actually closed the air filter on the KZO ozone, so you can see I have a lack of ozone bubbles. Again, spa is operating as it should, other than there's no ozone bubbles. But typically, when you look in here, what you're going to look for is the directional flow from the heater through the ozone. So again, this one actually has a small circulation pump, so we can see the circulation pump over here. This is a store demo unit, so you probably shouldn't have wires out like this, but I do, and that's fine. But what you can do is you can follow this kind of yellowish tubing. This tubing is normally clear when we have a brand new ozone. The yellow tubing means that the ozone is actually working and staining the inside liner of this tubing to make it yellow. But if you follow this tubing, it should typically come down out of the ozone and then start looping back up. So we're following it here, and you can actually see it kind of comes up here. It loops around the bar top. The reason why it's looping underneath the bar top is to actually prevent backflow from coming through here. And then it's going down into a white or a red injector. So in this one, we have a white injector. This is a Mozzie injector. So as you have flow going through this way, the air is getting sucked through the ozone, and it's actually turning into, we're using a CD ozone here, so corona discharge ozone. So we're electrifying the air essentially, and it turns into ozone, gets mixed in with the water as it returns back to the spa. So what we need to do is we're going to actually leave the power on to the hot tub to make sure that water doesn't spill out of this thing, but we're going to have to remove this and clear out this injector, because sometimes this injector, it's full of calcium. So if you're not using a calcium inhibitor or like a stainless scale control of some kind, it can happen. It can even happen if you have high hardness anyway. So we're going to show you how to clear this out in just a second. Okay, so now that I kind of set the camera up so I can actually do this with two hands, you'll notice that this one, we use zip ties to do this. Some people use these pinch clamps. It makes it very difficult to get it off. I like the zip tie because it works just as fine. So that's why I have a pair of wire nips. Now, if you didn't have this, if you actually used a clamp, you actually might have to cut the ozone tubing up here to get back on here. But again, I'm leaving the spa on, or I'm having the pump on. Sorry, I bumped the camera here. But I'm going to clip this off. So I got this guy off. You really don't need that because you shouldn't have any backflow, but if you do, just in case. And then what I do is I kind of pry this thing off. So if you don't have much space, you might want to put some gloves on so you don't smack your hand into something. But I'm just holding this in place. Now what you could do is you could also cut this tubing back and cut it up here. So if you cut it up here, and then you can twist this off. Because if I were to twist this, you can actually see that I'm actually twisting the ozone tubing. This stuff can kink. If it kinks, then your ozone's not going to work. So we really don't want to kink this, because this tubing is also not super inexpensive. So I'm just going to actually kind of rip this thing off there, just like that. Now you can hear some suction there, and this thing came off actually pretty easily. Now I can unscrew this, and you can hear that. So that means we have it, it's pretty clear, so it's okay. But just in case it wasn't clear, we're gonna open this up. Now on top of this, some people actually use a little bit of vinegar, like acid, to actually just kind of get rid of the calcium. I like to use a paper clip, so all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna stretch this thing out and kind of stick it in here. And there's a small little slit in there, and as I kind of back it back and forth, you should hear that suction kind of open up. So I'm just kind of breaking up any calcium that might be in there. Again, if you wanted to go a step further, you'd be able to pour some vinegar down there. Got the paper clip a little bit wet. But yeah, if you had a lot of calcium blockage, you would use this method to kind of break it up, and then you would use calcium or vinegar to get it all out. So I don't need to do that. This hot tub's pretty new, and I don't want to make a mess all over the place, because then I'd have to get towels and stuff. So what I want to do is I want to put this thing back. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to lick this thing. We'll do that off camera so you don't have to see me do that. Just to make it a little easier lubricated to slide this thing back on here. So just licked it. I'm going to put this thing back on. And again, as this is open, this is not connected to the ozone anymore, so if I move the camera up, we should have lots of ozone bubbles, but those are not ozone bubbles, they're just bubbles. So put this back, and then we're going to get this thing back on here. So, and if you were able to just pull it off, you should be able to just slide it back on, no problem. If you didn't pull it off, if you cut it up here, you might really have to kind of get this thing really wet and then wrestle with it to get it back on. But that's generally how you want to do it, so you don't kink it. I got my extra zip tie here. So again, just kind of make sure I put this in the right way here. Now, you shouldn't have to do this that often, but it is part of normal routine maintenance. If your ozone is actually attached to a jet pump and not a circ pump, your injector should be red. And it might be a little more difficult. What you'd have to do is run your pump on a low speed to make sure it doesn't spit out at you. But that's how you adjust it. So as soon as you start looking at everything, let's go back here. Look at that, absolutely beautiful. We're back in business. So, hey, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Really do appreciate it. If you have any other suggestions for other videos, let me know, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.